Global stocks struggle for direction, dollar at one-month lows. Wall Street stocks were mostly higher on Tuesday despite the U.S. government reporting consumer prices increasing by 0.6% in March, the fastest rate since 2012. The reaction to the report was positive due to the fact that the Federal Reserve has said earlier that a rise in consumer prices would be temporary. As such, the S&P 500 rose 0.33%, the Dow Jones Industrial Average fell 0.2%, and the Nasdaq gained 1.05%. In individual stocks, Johnson & Johnson shares shed 1.34% after U.S. regulators suspended the use of its vaccine to investigate possibly dangerous blood clots. Asian stocks finished in positive territory on Wednesday as bond yields continued to ease after data showed U.S. inflation was not rising as fast as many feared, despite the figures coming in higher than expected. The Shanghai Composite Index gained 0.60%, the Hang Seng in Hong Kong advanced 1.42%, the Kospi in Seoul was up 0.42%, while the Nikkei 225 in Tokyo bucked the trend, shedding 0.44% amid a rising number of coronavirus cases in Japan. In Europe, equities closed on a slightly positive note on Wednesday, with investors reacting to corporate earnings and the latest batch of economic data. On the data front, Eurozone industrial output declined 1% month-on-month in February and fell 1.6% compared to February 2020. In the UK, labour productivity declined 0.7% annually in the fourth quarter, in contrast to a 0.4% rise in the third quarter. The Pan-European Stock 600 gained 0.19%, the UK's FTSE 100 climbed 0.71%, France's CAC advanced 0.4%, and Germany's DAX slid 0.17%. In individual stocks, LVMH shares rallied after a company reported better than expected first quarter sales. In the United States, the Federal Reserve's Beige Book pointed to a moderate pace of economic growth this spring, with a slight inflation uptick in 2021. On the data front, the U.S. Import Price Index increased 1.2% in March, outstripping fuel prices by 0.8%. As a result, Wall Street stocks closed mostly lower on Wednesday, with technology shares leading losses. The Dow Jones Industrial Average rose less than 0.2%, the S&P 500 fell 0.41%, and the Nasdaq Composite slid 0.99%. Meanwhile, JP Morgan Chase, Goldman Sachs Group, and Wells Fargo & Co. kicked off the first quarter earnings season by beating expectations. JP Morgan Chase shed 1.85%, Goldman Sachs Group gained 2.34%, and Wells Fargo rallied 5.53%. As for currencies, the dollar extended losses nearly across the board, but started to erase losses later in the day as Fed officials began talking about tapering bond buys. Vice Chair Richard Clarida hinted that meetings, including new Fed forecasts such as the upcoming one in June, would offer opportunities to assess if enough progress has been made to reassess purchases. Meanwhile, Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell suggested that the tapering of asset purchases would come well before any interest rate increase, but stressed the economy still needs to make significant progress. The US dollar index traded slightly in positive territory around 91.70 region ahead of the opening bell in the European markets, still around one-month lows. The Euro-USD extended gains to one-month highs around 1.990 early on Thursday before retreating marginally. The focus now shifts to Thursday's release of U.S. retail sales figures for March, along with weekly jobless claims and seconded by Philly Fed Index, the NY Empire State Index, industrial production, capacity utilization, business inventories, and the NAHB Index. In other markets, oil prices rallied on Wednesday, posting the highest finish since mid-March. In its monthly report, the International Energy Agency raised its forecast for global oil demand in 2021 by 230,000 barrels a day from its previous forecast. It now sees an increase of 5.7 million barrels a day from 2020 to 96.7 million barrels a day this year. In its weekly report, the Energy Information Administration reported that U.S. crude inventories fell by 5.9 billion barrels for the week ending April 9th. Against this backdrop, Brent crude jumped to $66.88 while retaining an optimistic tone early on Thursday, targeting the $67 barrier. Asian stocks were mixed on Thursday, with the MSCI's broadest index of Asia-Pacific shares outside Japan pausing after 2 straight days of gains. The Shanghai Composite Index lost 0.69%, while the Hang Seng in Hong Kong declined 0.76%, and the Kospi in Seoul added 0.41%. That is all for today. Thank you for watching. Please click subscribe to always be in touch with the latest market news.